Sorry, Hurley, it's not all about the squint. Hey everyone, Greg Cazillo from Cazillo.com. Welcome to Keep Shooting Monday number 46. Through next Monday, we have a 30% off sale for the holidays. Use the discount code HOLIDAY to get your 30% off of t-shirts, off of photos, off of everything in the store. So Cazillo.com/store or /T if you just want to pick up a t-shirt, type in discount code HOLIDAY and you will get that 30% discount. Speaking of holidays, this week, the new assignment is going to be holidays. It's going to be a long one, and I'm working on cementing some really awesome prizes for the top 3. So make sure you have your cameras ready to go. It is going to be a subject of holiday, and have some more details later on in today's show, and then again next week. Last thing I thought I would mention in Cazillion stuff is the support page, Cazillo.com/support. If you head over to that page, you can make purchases on Amazon and get some discounts from some other retailers. If you use those links, you will either not pay more or you get some free prizes or free extras by using those links, and you support the site, and I greatly appreciate it. So any of those purchases, especially on Amazon, please use those search boxes first. That'd be great. Now on to the news. Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop and 20 gigs of storage in their Behance portfolio package is now open to everyone, not just CS3 subscribers, through December 2nd. If you've been thinking about it, you're not sure, you didn't have CS3, go ahead, spend the 10 bucks, try this out, see if it's going to work for you, if you like it. And so for 10 bucks, man, you really can't beat it. You know, 10 bucks a month, but you know what? Just try it out. Do the trial, throw the $10 at it, see if it works for you. If you haven't upgraded to Lightroom 5 yet, this is a perfect way to get it even cheaper. Or if you don't have Lightroom at all, this is the way to get it cheaper. If you have an older version of Photoshop, it's a good time to do it. You don't need to have CS3 in order to grab this. Totally worth it, and I might even do it myself. Haven't decided. Problem is that I need more than just Photoshop and Lightroom. I use do a lot of video editing and audio stuff, so I need more than that. But still, it seems like a pretty good deal. Lifehacker posted the top 5 brands of laptops that have the least number of issues. The top 5 are Asus, and then who was next? Next was Toshiba, Sony, then Apple, and then Dell. I'm surprised Dell ranked that high. I'm also surprised Sony ranked that high. I'm also surprised that Apple was low, but then again, that's just the way it is. Everybody thinks that Apple's is wonderful, but unfortunately, the top 3 are higher than you would think. Anyway, if you're looking at a laptop, you're going to buy one for someone as a gift, or even for yourself at the end of the year here, take a look at those Asus and Toshibas. Personally, I've had really good luck with those Toshiba laptops in the past for PCs, so check them out, see if you like them. And here's a link over to that article on Lifehacker. You are looking at a picture of a $1.8 million camera designed by Johnny Ive from Apple. It's a Leica, custom design, custom everything, digital, the whole 9 yards. Don't know how good of a camera it is, but it sold at auction for charity for $1.8 million. That's a lot of money, and good to hear that the charity made a lot of money on that. You ever wondered what the right way is to put a gel on a beauty dish? Here it is. Head over to Strobus. He shows you the right way to do it. You just cut it down, tape it, drop it on, and you're done. It's actually not that difficult. I've been using this method for years, but it works perfectly. A lot of people don't realize this is the right way, but this is it. Last thing I thought I would mention this week is, you know that I'm always talking about space photos. I just think they're amazing and beautiful. This one is really cool. It actually has some high resolution downloadable images. These images are like 8,000 pixels. You can print them really huge. They are public domain. That means you can print them and do whatever you want with them. So head over, download one of these if you wanted to make it like your background on your computer, or if you wanted to make it, you know, print it out and hang it on your wall. You can do that, make it something inspirational, do whatever you want with it. But this one of the Arctic is really cool. It's from a number of years ago, still awesome, still haven't lost its kick. Thinking of buying a used 80-200 AFS. What's your input regarding this lens? Ron, this is a really good lens. But the two things you're going to need to remember is, number one, you need to have the little focus motor that's built into the cameras. So your newer, lower-end cameras like a 3200 and the 3100 D5000s are not going to be able to use this lens in autofocus mode. So make sure you have a newer body than that, like a 7000 or even an older body, like a D90 or something like that would work with it fine. The other caveat is that you're gonna lose autofocus speed. Don't expect this to be a really great performer on your autofocus speed. You know, this lens is, I think 12 or 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that. It's been around for a long time. They actually still sell them new. That's how good of a quality of this lens is. But again, it's going to be slow. It's not going to be super fast autofocus. So if you can deal with the slower autofocus, it's a good lens to have. It's a good starter 2.8 lens. But just be aware of the caveats. Wouldn't a 50mm on a DX be roughly equivalent to a 75mm lens on a 35mm sensor? I think what he means, and as you see I put two questions up there, is that on a DX sensor, that the image area is being cropped, since it is a crop sensor. And I swear I get this question like 3 times a week, and no. The reason why they call it a crop sensor is because it is cropping the image area coming out of that lens. It does not make the lens longer, it crops it. There's a big difference there. It's using the center of the lens, the better part of the lens, which is good in some respects, but it's bad in a lot of others. So just keep that in mind. It's not an equivalent thing. It is a cropping thing. It is cropping the lens. How do I meter for both the sky and subject without having a blown out sky? I don't think I answered this question already, but it was still sitting on my desktop, so I thought I would throw it in. First, you can head over to this video. It shows you my tip for not metering the sky and getting an accurate meter of the subject in the foreground when you have that real bright sky, typically caused by cloud cover. Works well, works fine, but you're still going to have that blown out sky. The only way to get rid of that blown out sky in that kind of a photo is to either change your location, change your angle, you could change the time of day that you're shooting, or you can add more light onto the subject. So if you add a flash, add a little fill flash or a main light flash and add a fill light flash, you can then drop down or raise your shutter speed and drop down the amount of ambient light that you're using. That's really going to be the only way though. One other thought, now that I think about it, would be adding a graduated filter or a neutral density filter. That can also darken your sky. But if you're not using any kind of a filters and not using a flash, you're just stuck. There's really nothing you can do in order to really balance those. Either you want to meter them both, you know, together or separate. Sometimes you can do a little Photoshop work to make it look a little better, or Lightroom work, but it usually looks like you've done that and it doesn't look natural, especially if you're doing the full sky replacement. That looks really weird. So try some of those tips and see if they help. Next we have our photo assignment winners. Had some really nice entries for the studio one. Our number 3 photo is this one from Gabe with his AE1. I like the angle. I like that it's not straight on. I like that he has good hand placement. I like seeing the jeans in the back of the photo. I think it's a very well composed. I like the harsh light and the black and white and the composition and the way he has the very high contrast in the image. I think it's very well done. Love the image. Great use of a single light in the photo. Works really well. Next one that, of course, my iPhone turns off on me. Next one that I liked is Jimmy with this green plant. Don't know what kind of plant it is. Don't care. I always like seeing plants in the studio, especially on a dark background. You know, normally you see those greens and that kind of thing outdoors and in a different setting, but it's just something about seeing those in the studio. The only thing that I would have done is added some more smaller drops in there. I think those smaller water drops make it look a little bit more natural, more like, instead of the big drops, it looks like they were just kind of dropped on there and left there forever. But if you put more smaller drops, I think it would have made it a little bit more realistic. I do like the fact that it was a little off-center and good lighting, and it works really well. But smaller drops, I think, would enhance it a little bit. Last one from Jim St. Croix with this Pepsi photo. Pretty darn good, Jim. Food is very difficult to photograph. You need to get it just right. You got the bubbles from the Pepsi. Not a lot of bubbles, or I should say, I'd like to see some condensation on the outside of the can, maybe, just to enhance that a little bit. And the other thing that I didn't like was the top two dark corners are too dark. I think you darken them a little bit too much. Maybe leave a little hint of something instead of going almost all the way black with that vignette, because it's clear that you vignetted the top of the image and not the bottom. Maybe it's the light, but I think you just went a little bit too far in Photoshop or Lightroom and vignetted those, and it just doesn't quite work for my taste. Other than that, Jim, you are the winner for this week. That's my #1 photo. Speaking of which, next assignment is going to be the holidays. I have some big prizes coming. I'm still working on getting those sponsors together, so those announcements will be coming up soon. It can be outdoor, it can be indoor, it can be kids opening their presents, it can be anything that says holidays. So get them posted up to the forum, and I'll put a link to where you can post them right in this post or the YouTube description. So Hurley posted this video, which is making its rounds around Gizmodo and Engadget and the photography blogs and YouTube, and has like 400,000 views, and I think it was on some news shows. And it has this, what they call, squinch thing. And it probably works really well in Hurley's world of only shooting professional models. But I have some major problems with it when it comes to the real world portrait sessions with your families, with your individuals that are not professional models. They are not going to be able to do this. One of his quotes that he had in there was, "Look at their eye ability." Of course they have really good eye control because they're professional models. Of course they can do that thing. You can tell them to do everything. They can sit in front of a camera for hours and hours, whether it be video or photos, and they know what they're doing. They're professional models. But it doesn't work for the regular person. You're not going to be able to tell a soccer mom to do this squinch thing when they're worried about little Sally puking on their dress and that Johnny has the right toy and that her husband's tie is straight and all that stuff. It's not going to work. You're trying to get, in that group. It's not happening. Maybe it's going to work for one person, not a larger group. Some other points. One other thing here, studio versus outdoors. If all the images that he's showing here are basically studio images, but what happens when you're outside? You naturally squint. Well, trying to get someone to not squint is very difficult. If you've ever tried it, it is very difficult. So you don't want to make them intentionally try and squint or intentionally close their eyes when you're trying to make their eyes a little bit bigger so you can see them at all because you're already outdoors on a bright day. Not going to work. One other thought is, if you're telling them to pose and you put your hand here and your eyes there and turn your head and do this and do that, you're already giving them a lot of things to do, and then you're going to tell them to squinch. It's just too much. You can't expect a non-professional model, a regular person, to do this. And that's the problem, is Hurley is applying this kind of calling it an end-all be-all, like everybody has to do it. And where was it? You want to look more confident, you better do it, is one of his quotes in the video. Well, confidence should come from the photographer. Confidence should come from, just like Cesar Millan in The Dog Whisperer. he projects that confidence and that control over pets and dogs and animals. Well, you should be doing the same thing when they walk into your studio or into your session. Project that confidence. When you project that confidence onto them, they're going to give it back to you because they know you're going to do a good job. It's not going to work that way, work the opposite way, where you go in and you don't know what you're doing, you're fumbling with your equipment, and I've said this for years. You've got to know your equipment before you're going to have that confidence and then to be able to move forward with that and get a better photograph. One more problem with Hurley's video here is that this little squinch thing is not going to fix your bad lighting. It's not going to fix your wrong lens choice. It's not going to fix an uncomfortable person. It's going to make them more uncomfortable. Your bad scene, your bad pose, your bad anything. Adding this little squinch thing is only going to make them more uncomfortable. So it's only going to work for maybe 1 out of 10 people in the real world. Versus, yeah, it might work for just about every single person in Hurley's world of only shooting, models and high fashion and actors and actresses and that kind of thing. Yeah, it probably works for a very high percentage. But in the real world, not going to happen. So what are the top 2 things you need to do in the real world to get a better portrait? Number 1 is be confident. Know your equipment, know what you're doing, be able to reproduce it, practice it, know everything you have in and out. Go get a friend or a stuffed animal or something, sit them down, set up your lights, set up everything. Go buy a mannequin and do it. Whatever it takes to make you confident in what you need to do and how you want to do it, that's got to be number 1. Number 2 is learn the people's expressions. Learn what they're doing, what works, what isn't going to work. Try and keep them happy. Have a conversation with them. Just like that old saying, or the old story with Yusuf Karsh and how he took the cigar from Winston Churchill. You know what? That's the expression that he wanted, so that's how he acted. He wanted Winston Churchill to do that and to act angry and to give him that look. That's what he did. He made it work. He was the master of reading someone's face, reading their expression, and then finding a way to make it work in that photograph. He would sit down and talk with them. Don't expect that this little squinch thing, which is just a trend, it's just a popular video that everybody thinks is going to work, just because they throw it in, it's not going to work. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all. Unfortunately, like in Hurley's world, that he is making it out to be. So follow those top 2 tips, and you should be fine. You will get better photographs. Greg Cazillo, Cazillo.com. Thanks, guys. Keep shooting. See you.